Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. How you doing?
Great to see you, sir.
Great to see you too. You look the same as 25 years ago, bro.
Man, I'm going to take that as a huge compliment.
Please, please, please do. Please do.
uh, we'll get going in a sec, okay?
Sounds good, man.
All righty. I see that folks are still logging on, so we're going to give it a few more minutes, maybe a minute or two, just so we can get everybody into the room for this great event. I know we can't see you all that are joining, but we see the numbers going up on the participants. So great to have you all here. Okay, I've got a minute after 1, so I am sure that some folks will be joining us as the hour goes on. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to keep Marcus longer than an hour if I could, but I can't. That's the time we've got allotted. So I want to use the time as best as I can today with him. I'm Daryl Minus, and I'm a vice president at Southside Virginia Community College. And I am really excited to welcome everyone to our first of 3 Profiles in Black Excellence virtual fireside chats during the month of February. As we celebrate Black History Month, this series is all about recognizing Black men and Black women who are what I would call inspirational examples of Black excellence. You know, people who have not only accomplished a great deal in their careers and in their lives or in their respective fields, but they've also committed themselves to impacting others. So with that being said, you know, I am so pleased, I'm so excited to have Marcus Johnson kicking off our Fireside Chat series. Marcus, he's an award-winning, Billboard chart-topping, NAACP Image Award nominated jazz pianist. He is a renowned speaker and professor who earned his JD MBA from Georgetown University. Marcus is also an entrepreneur. His Flow for the Love of lifestyle brand, which is inclusive of wine, of candles, and a podcast, has been recognized by Forbes and USA Today as a top celebrity brand. Marcus is also the author of the inspiring book, For the Love of, or Living the Journey of Life with Intention, Love, Passion, and Happiness. And so if you were also logged in a little bit early to today's session, you were listening to I Can't Go For That from Marcus's This Is How I Rock project, which is one of my personal favorites. That's why I had to rock it, Marcus. He also has a new single out called The Missing Ingredient, featuring saxophonist Everett Hart. So without more delay, welcome, Mr. Marcus Johnson. Man, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, man. Doing very well. Just getting back in from my walk. I'll say my 9-hole walk around the golf course. run into one of my, I have a shared office space. There's a competitor for WeWork that we use. So I ran into DC and jumped into an office, and this is my midpoint. And then, the highlight of my day is in an hour and a half, I get to go pick up my daughter. So, you know how we do with our kids, man. It's, you got to make the most of every single day.
No, look, no question. And those daughters I've got, yeah, they're something else, aren't they?
Yeah, they're amazing. And the especially the way they take care of daddy. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that. They have us down, and yeah, little fun.
Absolutely.
It's been awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's just so great to be able to have a conversation with you, and just to have you be able to share a little bit with us this afternoon, how you've been able to, over your career breadth, utilize your experiences, as launching pads to build resilience, to push boundaries, if you will, and also just reshape the narrative, your own narrative, to achieve multiple levels of success. So just to get things started, music, I know, is undeniably a part of your core being. So we've got to start there. Can you talk about your experiences in your earlier years that kind of help shape your foundation as a musician?
It's really interesting. Our former band director, Ray Harry, came to our relaunch in Silver Spring last Thursday. And I shouted him out big time because Ray was a visionary well before his time. He was somebody that made sure that we, as the Montgomery County Inner City School in Maryland, that we got to travel, that wherever we went, we looked and acted a certain way. But that when we hit those notes, there was nobody that could mess with us. I mean, and thus you were even in the band the years where we won, all county every year. My senior year, I ended up in all state. We won a national competition in New Orleans. And so, you put all that together, and it's like it really started, musically there. And having somebody to guide you the right way, not to shun you away from doing popular music when they're a jazz guy, but somebody who said, this is what you do. And I want to do all that I can to help you. You need to get these lessons. Hey, if you don't learn this music, I'm going to take your seat from you. And I don't know. You remember that year where I had to sit out on a couple of songs, and I went in the practice room, and I was like, no,
Yes.
sir. So
Yes.
you build resistance. Using your word, you build resilience
Yeah.
by setting boundaries and sticking to them. And when you set those boundaries along with consequences for one, either exceeding them or for falling below, say, a threshold, it allows a developmental process. I use the term deeper now. It'll be my new book. It's kind of the gist of my second TED talk, but the whole D, dream, engage, E, environment, P, plan, execute, and reflect. As an acronym, that reflection phase, and Ray would always make us sit back and reflect as well. If we didn't do so well, man, he'd sit in the room and he'd have heart to hearts with us. And it was like he was like Uncle Ray, or Big Bro Ray, and then sometimes he was Dad Ray, and so that was great, along with the fact that I had a great father. And so it was that those are the key components. People would think, well, isn't practicing a part of that? Yeah, man, that goes without saying. But it's the core elements outside of the music that actually help the music to, or the musician and the artist to actually develop. And it's the same thing for entrepreneurs. It's the same thing for lawyers. It's the same thing for educators. Regardless of your field, that environment, that second E and deeper is so important. And some of us are blessed to be born into it. But all of us, as we develop, have the ability and the responsibility to make the choices of how we feed and fertilize our own environment. And that's been the key from making the decision to go to Howard, to Miami, And then my parents getting, my mom got sick. My dad honestly had financial problems when the metro went through DC and closed all his restaurants. And I had to go to Howard. And, that was not my first choice. I'm just going to be honest. Miami it was a music engineering and technology major. However, I found a program that was jazz studies and business. So it's like, well, I need to do the business anyway. I wanted to be, a musician with these other components on it. And it's challenging yourself, man, to have a dream of you in yourself and know that that dream is good enough because that dream is given to you by your higher power from whom we are never disconnected. So when you have that thing at night between the time when you close your eyes and when you go to sleep, those are the things that you need to follow because that's you in your higher power. And you and your higher power is a majority. And the process, we can get deeper into that, but that's the key core of the opportunity.
Marcus, I love that. And your deeper description and that acronym and what those words associated with that mean. I mean, it's just a powerful concept. Talk a little bit more about that motivation and desire to excel, because you had those other influences. You had Ray Harry as a band director. You had multiple things that inspired you, but hearing you talk about your parents, hearing about that home situation, your dad and your mom, that core, how important was that also to forming who you are in terms of that musician and the other aspects?
Imperative. I mean, I would not be the person I am today without my mom and my dad and my stepmom and my stepdad and my siblings. My oldest sister's a doctor, MBA behind her. My brother's an OBGYN. The younger sister next to me is another Georgetown lawyer. The one under her is a pulmonologist. And so we were always kicking around like, so you think you're smarter? There was a lot of intellect going. And so how do you do that? As a parent, how are you able to get your kids to think that way? In the 70s and 80s, it's a lot different than it is now. I raised Chase much differently because I put the onus on her. I have mine. What are you going to do? Now, if you don't do it, I'm going to take all your stuff away from you and you're going to be on punishment. And I'm not going to beat you like my mom beat me, but like you will know that you have disappointed yourself. Forget me, because anything could happen to me. What happens to you after I'm gone, Chase? That's how I do it. But the evolution came from having parents that said, standards that were so high. It was a standard, right? It wasn't let's say expectation. It is, no, this is what you do. You succeed. And I think that those of us, 70s and maybe early 80s babies, our parents came out of, the civil rights movement, and, really being the first generation to kind of openly be able to go to whatever institution they want to get the PhDs, to get the MDs and the master's degrees, etc., and the JDs, and then to be able to say like, okay, here's what I learned from this. Here's how I am committed to you having Black excellence. So then that bridge comes in as us, and I laugh because I try to take the best of what my mom gave me, because my mom was the one who was like, okay, what's 2 times 9? 7 times 3, 6 times 8, 12 times 12, 11 times 10. Oh, that's too long. Go back and study. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
If you could not knock those things out like, oh, you had to study. And if it got too much, if you came back the third time and you weren't on point, you didn't
Absolutely.
come back. You didn't come back until you were ready to go like, okay, what you got for me, mom? Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And then when you were done and you wanted that, like, she's like, that's what I expect from you. Now go on, go do your stuff. Go get an A on the test. That is something I think that, it might be missing today. And I think that's a huge problem with a lot of what we have going on in the way we're looking at things, because when you feel as though that you should get an award for showing up versus excelling, then you continue to lower the threshold. I'm not saying participation should not be valued, but it should not be given an award as much as the person who actually wins. And there may be people who disagree with that. But what it does do is it allows for a level of entitlement. I never had the ability to be entitled because Willa, although she was 5'2", she often seemed 8'9", when she got upset. And you didn't want the Incredible Hulk in your back room, looking in your door like, what are you doing? And the worst thing would be to come home with grades that were kind of subpar. Like, dang, you felt disappointment. Like you cared. We cared. And so I think part of that was because our parents seeded so much into us, not just in success, not just in keeping up with the Joneses, because they did that too, but with the idea of I want to seed into you, my next generation. And then as my dad developed, he started teaching me like, well, what do you think about it? I don't know, Dad. I'm 10. hmm
Yes.
I want to know what you think about it. Okay, does that sound stupid? No, that's how you think about it. Now let's develop that. And I think that, people nowadays feel as though kids should raise themselves. And, it doesn't happen that way. If you're in academia, you must continue to mold your, students. They're our customers as a professor. We owe it to them to give them the extra, to go the extra yard. If we don't know something and they ask us the question, it's not like that's not on our syllabus. I'll get back to you. And that's where you get value. That's why my students still call me back today. And I think that all that goes into a higher value of excellence. It is a verb and it's an action and it's never a destination. It is something that as you do it, it manifests, it appears.
That's incredible. And it's so true. Because you talked about excellence. A lot of folks talk about once you get there, once you achieve it. And they talk about all the accomplishments around that. They talk about how successful you are. But as we both know, the setbacks, the disappointments, the knockdowns, the feeling like you can't go on, all that shapes how your future unfolds. So yeah, switch gears a bit.
Mhm.
And I mean, everyone sees what Marcus has done. Everybody can read your portfolio, go to your website, which we'll give everybody before we're done today. But talk a bit about some failure defining moments, Marcus, that just energized you to persevere and push forward, both music, both with your brand, everything. Talk a little bit about that.
Do you want the one that happened this morning? Because they happen every day, right? So, like I say, it's a destination. A defining moment for me um, was getting a demonstration deal with Blue Note, and as a 19-year-old at Howard. And because I was doing contemporary jazz, no one at the university wanted to touch anything. That like you have a demonstration deal with Blue Note, like the Blue Note.
The Blue Note.
And for those who don't know, a demonstration deal is kind of a precursor for a long form contract. They give you a little bit of money, see what you can do with it. And I had a manager who was at the time managing people like Luther Vandross and Michael Jackson and others, and was a big time executive. And honestly, his value had to be I have to take care of Luther, I have to take care of Michael. I'll do what I can for you, but I really didn't understand the industry. I'm like, I have this deal, got a little bit of money. Read an article that Quincy Jones said spend the money on the studio instead of in it. So I bought the equipment in the this is early 90s to be able to record, which did end up being the equipment I used for my first CD. But I did not have the guidance and I didn't know what I was doing. So the music that I turned in, I was trying to be something that I wasn't. Instead of working and playing and doing what I did and being, that precursor to like the Robert Glaspers, the guys I play with now, I was trying to be something else. Let me do the R&B thing. Let me try and mix this. Didn't work. Um, Sitting on the back of an airplane with tears coming down my eyes, that's when I made the decision to go to law school. I was like, I need to make sure that I'm never on this side of the desk this way again. And you want to talk about it's not failure but ridicule. Um, who do you think you are that you're a piano player and you're a fine arts major and you're going to take the LSAT. Well, I'm pre-law and I'm planning on going here. And man, I had fraternity brothers that were not nice. I had professors that were absolutely discouraging, teasing me, like asking me if I was going to get my JD out of a box of Cracker Jacks, if I was going to go to Captain Crunch University. And I remember those terms so well because it hurt so much. And they didn't know me, bro. So they didn't know, from once man, you make it out of Blair.
Yeah, that
We
core.
had we had the core, we had the super smart students. We were amongst the best of the best and rocking it. And then Montgomery County in general, coming out of there, cosmopolitan, like you don't understand who my parents are. What I'm doing, I'm doing music because I'm going to change the world with music, not just to be not just to play, not just to be the best piano player. I want to change the world. So I went on to, take the LSAT. First time I bombed it because I didn't wear a shirt. The shirt didn't wear a sweater, and it was like 60 degrees in that place, and I was literally shaking
Right.
taking the exam. And I was like, I know I can do better than this. So I took it the second time, blew it out the water, got a full ride to a certain place, and was on my way there, and some things went wrong. And the deadline for Georgetown Law was March 1st. On May 31st of that year, I put in my application, and step by step, I talked to a neighbor. I was like, man, I just put this application in. I don't think there's a chance in heck that I'm getting in. It's like, where? I said, Georgetown. He's like, but I know so and so. I met so and so. They were like, man, you're a great writer. These grades are good. Your LSAT score is incredible. Well, I just happened to have baptized the dean's kids at Georgetown Law. Would you like me to talk? I mean, don't finish that sentence. Heck yeah.
Yes.
Why aren't you picking up the phone right now?
Right.
You know, then I get a call from the dean of admissions, and he's like, I don't know if there's anything I can do. Would you? Of course, I want you to continue. Let's see. And a week later, on August 7th, I get a call from him saying, I just want to know if you'd like to be in the entering class of '93 at Georgetown Law. I mean, of course, hell yeah. So the first place I went was to Staples, and I got cards with the scales of justice on it that said Georgetown University School of Law. I got them the next day. I went to Howard and I said on all the professors' doors, don't you ever try to dissuade anybody else from doing anything like this again. And they were like, wow. And the same teachers and professors are the ones that ended up asking me to come back and speak or teach the entertainment law class and the
Power.
business class. So I've gotten my butt kicked. I mean, we just got a big, huge announcement. We're in this national program with Total Wine and More with our wine brand. Man, this time last year, I didn't even know we were going to have retail because they got a new wine buyer at Total Wine who didn't know anything about our brand, trying to tell us about our brand and, analytics that they were using. I get it. You're new. You want to take some time. Take your time, but don't try to knock us down. So I was deflated because we were going to do an exclusive with them nationwide. What did we do? Man, I talked to a couple other people, ended up getting a larger distribution deal with the largest distributor in the country. And through their supply diversity initiative, kept working and working for other retailers. All of a sudden, hey, Total wants to be in 8 markets. Hey, Total wants to be in 10 markets. Hey, you're on a national end cap with all the other top African American brands at every Total Wine in the United States.
Wow.
I was deflated. A year and a half, almost 2 years ago, right before COVID, I was wondering if I was going to be in the wine business. Now, we just got this feature. They put us out on all their social media, me holding some flow, and everything like that, and them trumpeting us as a brand of excellence, black excellence in the world, doing what we do, the number one retailer of wine in the country.
And so you've actually confirmed what one of the things that I'm really hoping that everyone who's listening today really pays attention to. And that is that failure is a part of growth. It's a part of getting to the point where you can be successful. And you can take a situation that's a disadvantage and you can put the work in, rethink it, redesign your plan, and you can have that as a launching pad to go further than you ever thought you could. And your description about the bad deal, and then using that as a motivation to learn more about the industry, getting the Georgetown pedigree and that education underneath you, and then being able to then take all of that and then transition into, knowing the business infrastructure, knowing intellectual property. I mean, knowing all the pieces and using all of that to then go to the next level. So that's really a great point that I'm hoping folks are listening to today.
And it's a journey, man. It's like, like you said, people don't see the times that you're off. Like, I play golf well some days, but it's because of days like today where I was glad I was on my own. I tried to cut in front of somebody, fell down the hill, had mud all down my back. I was like, I'm still gonna play the rest of the hole. It's like, I would have laughed at my cracking up at me, right? But like, they don't see that. They don't see the muddy pants when you get into the locker room. They don't see you running from, golf course to office to, put on daddy hat to multiplication facts to, dropping my daughter off because we're not together, to, trying to be family man, to getting some workout, to like, it's a process. And you're not always going to get it right. And that is the perfection of life. You will not always get it right, and you keep stepping anyway.
Yes. And while you were pursuing your JD MBA at Georgetown, you actually, and I don't know how you did this, but you figured out a way. You dropped your first CD, if I'm not mistaken, during that time that you were in school or around about that time, didn't you?
I actually dropped my first 2 CDs while I was in school.
Wow.
So, I mean, delegation, good teams, scheduling. Again, these are all a part of the deeper model. When you're in the execution or engagement phase and planning, it's very important for you to know what you need to do to get it done. And I was reminiscing with one of my engineers about my first couple of CDs, and he was like, Marcus, you're the only person I knew that came in with a word schedule, and you had an Excel spreadsheet of the things that you needed to get done on the 8 songs you were recording, and you had everything applying to a part of your calendar, and you could knock out a CD in 2 weeks. Because again, Daryl, I wasn't looking for perfection. I knew my limitations. I know today there are people that can play me up one side of the piano and down the other, but I have 20 plus CDs out. But I get, hundreds of thousands of spins a week on each individual platform, Spotify, Pandora. I mean, 40, 50 different top, platforms around the world. Why? Because I did it. I mean, at the end of the day, remember, perfection is the enemy of done. And if you don't get things finished, you can't get them out and you can't test them in the marketplace. And it's just a snapshot. And if you can jump out of your ego into the connected part, understand that whatever you do is you're seeding yourself into the world, whether it's music, whether it's law, whether it's visual art, teaching, whatever. Do your best. I mean, that's Ruiz and the 4 agreements. At the end, the 4th agreement is do your best. No one can ask anything more of you. And when you do that, it's funny because things seem to look like miracles, but you're just taking a step each day.
That is also powerful too, what you just said. We talk about striving and aspiring, and wanting to be the best that you can be. But knowing that there's always someone in whatever line of work that you're in, like you said, education, business, music, there's always someone that's going to have a little bit more talent than you, possibly play better than you in some cases. But what can launch you and move you into that space is if you have the drive, the desire, the passion, you do the homework, you learn, you apply that. Sometimes it's not about how great your facilities are.
Yeah.
There are, as you know, there are a lot of great musicians playing all kinds of instruments who are dynamite, but they've been unable to apply many of the things that you talked about already today with me. And because of that, they've not moved from that space. Would you agree?
Yeah, they're stuck. Absolutely. I mean, they're stuck. And so, when you put that together, what does it mean, right? So what are we telling you? Always have your own personal dream.
Yes.
Engage in it, meaning find out what you need to do. Put it on a piece of paper. Put a line where you sign a contract with yourself of how you're going to do it and when you're going to get it done. Have a witness who's your accountability partner. Look at your environment. People, places, things, and ideas that you have in and around your life that if they're, constructively critical, they tell you yes and why, they tell you no and why, keep them. If not, they're as poisonous and deadly to you as a cancer. Because if they suck your energy, it's just like sucking your energy. It's like what cancer does. Yes. Then having a plan that must be written. Oh, Marcus, I have a plan that's in my head. Nah, that's not a plan. Because as soon as the phone rings, as soon as that next notification comes in, as soon as the next whatever comes in, man, it's gone. Then you go out and execute it. You execute it any legal way you can. And, the thing that gets in the way of us as it relates to, execution is that it's not natural. Our minds have been built to hesitate. So use, I think her name, Mel Robbins, has the countdown, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give yourself a countdown at which point you have to lift up, you have to get out of bed, you have to go work out, you have to read that new article, you have to practice that scale, you need to read that new case, you need to practice that new procedure. And then you reflect on it. And when you reflect on it, it's taking, where you were with your original dream, making sure that your metrics say that you're headed in the right direction, and then you continue to refine your dream, because life really should be about a spiral this way, not this. That's flatline. That's dead. You know what I mean? What you want is like this. Uh-oh. That's how you live. That's how you live a vibrant life. And that's what it means to go deeper.
That's awesome, Marcus. Again, we've only got an hour with you. I wish I could have you longer, my friend. I really do. And I knew this was going to be a great conversation. I hope the folks that are listening are enjoying this as well. Let's shift gears just a bit, because one of the things about you, that has always been interesting to me, because of course, you and I go back to Montgomery Blair High School days, and I remember very vividly, when you and I were on the same stage briefly, when you were the music director of the Rock and Soul Show for, I think, a couple years. And, I actually played side by side with you, 1 year. Mm-hmm. It was my last year, and you were, I think, a sophomore still. Mm-hmm. But I remember you being very driven and focused even back then. And so when we've talked about a lot of the things that have formed who you are up to this point, I want to shift gears a bit, focus, passion, drive, and your journey as an entrepreneur. We talked a bit about the music component, but, you have diversified over the years, in some ways because you had to. Mm-hmm. You had to shift gears, but you've now got a lifestyle brand that's inclusive of music. And I want you to talk a little bit about just that part of the journey for you as an entrepreneur, your evolution of the Flow lifestyle brand, and just even some of the challenges you faced moving in this direction. Talk about that.
So we have Flow, and my mom back in the day used to be very concerned about me because she said I was too nice. My dad said the same thing, and like, Marcus, you want to help everybody. You're a social worker. So finally, with Flow, I was able to create a paradigm that allowed me to actually help people and make money doing it. In 2004, we had the shift in paradigm in music where we went from CDs to peer-to-peer services. And it sucked all of the revenues out of the music industry. And even the large companies faced disruption to the point where knocked a lot of companies out of the industry because you just couldn't afford it. We were sitting there, some months making, six figures. Then that went to five figures, and then it was going towards four. And this is in a span of 8 months
Yeah.
where the free music services, mp3.com, Napster, they killed everything. And people were just like, well, I can get this online now. And then iTunes worked with Hear Music. So you're like, oh my God, man, what am I gonna do? And so I'm sitting in my office one day and I was reading a book. Another thing I would tell you to do all the time is read. Whenever you can
Yes.
get your hands on an Inc. magazine, an entrepreneurship magazine. For me, back in the day, it was Fast Company magazine as well, Harvard Business Review.
Yes.
Um, and I was sitting and reading a book, Uncommon Ground, Howard Schultz, and he was trying to figure out how to pivot Starbucks off of every four corners in Manhattan because they were cannibalizing each other's sales. And he's like, we realized we were in like the real estate business, the third place business. And I was like, that's brilliant, man. So the first place being home, second place being your office, and the third place being Starbucks. And that's when Starbucks started to look different and feel different. It wasn't just a coffee shop where you went in and got your $4 latte, maybe $6 or whatever. It was, something they changed to that third place where you could chill, have meetings, read papers, each different Starbucks had a different feel in the city. So for us, I had to ask myself, what industry was I really in? And what I found out was that I'm not in the music industry. I'm not in the entertainment industry. And people are like, huh? You're
Right.
an
Huh?
entertainer. I'm not really an entertainer. Well, if you're not in entertainment and music, then what are you in? And I'd love to see if anybody's participating, what they would think that would be. I know it's kind of a just last minute thing. I'll put the chat up. But if I'm not in entertainment and I'm not in business, and lifestyle is includes a whole bunch, but then what really am I in? What do you think?
Well, they really can't respond, Marcus. The chat is not
Not
able.
act
So
okay, all right. So it's the therapy business.
yes.
I'm a therapist.
Yes.
And sometimes, I break down and stop in the middle of my performances and I'll give like a word, but it's a highways and byways word linked back to deeper, linked back to find your flow. Because I believe there are many ways to get people back into the word. And we're so caught up in FOMO and missing out and pretending to be things that we aren't. And, let me define myself by my fake relationship, or I'm insecure, so I have to let everybody know that I actually have a good relationship, which actually threatens my good relationship. Um, you need people out there to be like, stop. You don't need to share any of your stuff with anybody. This is yours. And if you're not good enough with it, then that might be a problem for you. You may want to address that. But I have a way. What do you want? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? How do you want to be? What pains are you feeling? What do you need to do to cure them? And we have these honest conversations from the stage. I mean, I did it with Valentine's Day at Keystone Corner, right? And I did it with 20,000 people at Newport Beach. I mean, I have to give that kind of thing. So when I realized I was in the therapy business, then I looked at my core demographic, which mainly are right now 60-40 women to men. I was like, well, what can I do to create more therapeutic experiences? Well, everywhere we go, we have these wine brands pouring for us. And then I'm reading, remember, read, because not only does it help you learn, but it may give you ideas of things it just can spur, new concepts. And there was this thing, oh my God, it was called a crush pad. And crush pad allowed you to do individual barrels of wine out of Napa. Well, my brain is so big, right? I'm like, well, if I can do a barrel, then I can do a whole brand. Also have the audacity to let your dream be so big that people are like, Psh, you are crazy, right?
Can't do that.
So, yeah. What do you know about wine? Well, I don't know about wine, but I won an entrepreneurship prize for best business plan, which means that I understand the process with which or through which you develop a plan for a business. And that's exactly, that's what we ended up, doing. I put a plan together. I went to a vineyard that was pouring my stuff in Virginia and was like, would you do a private label for us? They're like, yes. So that was in January. By May, we had our first run of what we call Flow 1.0. Within 8 months of that, that's 2010, within 8 months of that, we had a new national deal with a much larger production company and a distributor, another very large distributor, and 700 stores about to launch us through Super Value. And so it is really understanding your value proposition and what pain you're curing. I mean, that's the big marketing question that most businesses don't ask. Not, oh, my product, how does it fit in? No, man. You know what I mean? What
Right.
about your consumer? Who are you going after? I was on a pitch call yesterday for a really robust or up and coming brand of music lessons online. And you see them on Facebook. My partners and I were, doing due diligence, and they pitched us on it. And I was like, you don't even know your consumer.
Mm.
How do you how do you expect me to invest money in you
Exactly.
and you don't know your consumer? And so that is something that we started learning. And with women being our consumer and their number one alcoholic beverage being wine, it was easy to do all that stuff with Flow and end up in 700 stores in less than 12 months. And so, again, from there it went, like
Right.
this.
Right.
But, it was one of those things, man, where now we have candles. Now we have, if people are like, man, COVID and quarantine was the worst thing ever. It was. But it also pushed humanity to get over some hurdles, like
Yes.
things like QR codes. Because we were early on QR codes with landing pages in 2010. Do you think we got any clicks? Nope,
No.
none, right?
Right.
But after everybody having to get their menu and the phone technology increasing,
Mhm.
now basically we give away our music as a way of getting people to, go online, click a QR code on the back of our candle to get some wine, or click a QR code on the back of our bottle to get music and a candle. So it's all connected. And then all of our, everything is experience based. So now we have Love and Jazz Weekend, at which you can do yoga with Marcus, wellness. Thanks, Mom.
Yes.
I'm the therapeutic, social worker. Cooking with Marcus. We partnered with Salamander Resorts, Sheila Johnson, to do this. And we're expanding on that. We have Sips and Sounds. Everything is about an experience. I went to see Marcus Johnson and I got a motivational word. I went to see Marcus Johnson and I got this candle. So when I smell it, I'm gonna think Marcus Johnson. Hey, his wine. When I taste it, I'm gonna think candles and Marcus Johnson. When I'm in it, I'm gonna think all of it. And oh,
That's
how
right.
dope all this is. Experiential marketing, experiential, concepts, and experiential or therapeutic experiential kind of events and concepts that allow people to have memories and create memories, not just stuff. I dropped off clothes to one of those yellow bins, the other weekend. Can't wear it anymore. I'm not wearing the old styles, man. But the experience of smelling a good candle for the first time or tasting a great wine or like, man, I met so and so at Love and Jazz Weekend, a kindred soul, that lasts forever. That lasts for a lifetime.
Wow. Wow. Marcus, that's an amazing aspect of your journey, and one that I was hoping we'd be able to get to, and we did. Because those strategic risks in the midst of uncertainty, and then you pushing the envelope, knowing how to pivot, knowing that diversification, knowing who your audience is, those things were part of this movement towards this flow lifestyle brand you have. One thing that I heard you mention one time that I think is really relevant to your journey with your brand, and relevant to sort of what we're talking about today as far as pushing boundaries and resilience. I can see the success you've had with Flow Wine just as one aspect of what you do, seeing how you're distributed and seeing how that's evolving. But man, it couldn't have been a cakewalk as an African American entrepreneur to get into the wine business. And I'm just talking about sheer numbers. From what I understand, just doing some general reading, there weren't a lot of African American leaders in that field. Am I off base, or is that?
So out of about, say, 3,100 brands, maximum 80 that are just kind of relevant. Those of us that are national, 20, 15 out of 3,100. What does that say? I mean, it says a couple things. One, we're just getting into the wine industry. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that, we may have a little more representation in spirits, especially, with celebrities and athletes, they kind of fall under the same kind of vibe and the acceptance of that. But in beer and wine, where you have these craft kind of cultures, it is super clicky. And you have to navigate a lot. I've had things, actually, I think I've had worse things said to me in music than I have in wine, but you feel it. You know what I mean? And nobody really understands what it is to walk into every meeting knowing that you're going to be the only one that looks like you. And hey, I'm light skinned, you know what I'm saying? So where are you from? What is it? Africa Ancestry said New Guinea, right? Guinea-Bissau, whatever it is over there. And so it's like, you have those things where it's not an extra weight that you have to carry, but it's on your back. And you do your best to kind of shed it off, and it jumps back on sometimes. And again, I mean, I was on the golf course today, and I would recommend, if you're not spending an hour or two a day in the sun, I'm reading a book right now called The Energy Paradox, and I'm going through this whole new transformation of how I want to live day by day. I use my golf for looking at the birds, looking at how perfect nature is, seeing sunlight, seeing clouds, seeing, all these things that you can pull together and how it was pulled together. And by the way, if it all started as a little dot and then blew up, we're all connected. We all came from the ground, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And God's wisdom and omniscience, omnipotence, we all are connected. So in all of that, I'm still working on positive speech in my head.
Yes.
Because my voice is here. I don't know where yours is. Mine's right here. I hear it here.
Yeah.
It's like, what is it? Eckhart Tolle talks about, I figured out one day I couldn't live with myself. So myself, the ego, is here. The I, the connected part to the greater being, is over here. And and I've learned to ignore it, but at the same time, it takes practice. And if you think it's ever going away, man, please save yourself that battle. Don't worry about it. Just ignore it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just ignore it. It's not going away. But as you take each step forward, as you have each success, and you reflect upon it. That's the deeper the R is key. You need to sit and reflect. If you pray prayers of thanks. If you say, if it's like, God, we got this, just sit and say, here's what it took to get here. Whatever your ritual is, to sit in it and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Respect it. Give it to whatever else is out here. But please don't think that every day I don't have to deal with stuff in relationships, that I
Yes.
don't have to be self-compassionate, that I don't have parts, and I talk parts because I go to therapy every week. All right, I'm transparent. You do yourself a favor, get a coach, get a therapist. It helps, right? Because it's never going away. It hasn't gone away. It's like tinnitus. You just learn to work through it, and you can excel and strive in it if you reflect on it. If you're thankful for every little thing, because
Yes.
thankful for the little things, shucks, when the big stuff comes, you got it covered.
You're ready. Absolutely. Absolutely. And part of part of that brand that you created, I have to mention the book because, when I saw the book come out, I was like, Marcus, what else are you doing now? That's the first thing I said. But the second thing is, hearing what the book was about, and sort of seeing what prompted you to move in that direction and the connection to what you were already doing, it was perfect fit. Talk a little bit about the book, about what prompted that maybe, and what you would want someone who picked it up to really take home from it.
Wow, the book is something that, as I was talking and doing my highways, byways stuff on stages and, giving speeches, etc., people were like, where can I get that? And I was like, I'm working on something. And then finally, one day on an airplane, I said, you know what? I have to go back and forth with this wine stuff. Let me just take a topic. And if it get flow, it has for the love of, being stuck, for the love of dreaming. And I borrowed that kind of structure from the prophet, Khalil Gibran, that had the prophet on friendship, on marriage, right? So I just sat down and told a life story of dreaming with relevant, examples beyond me, and then how I interpolated it into my life, and then gave tips like John Maxwell would at the end of any of his books. And so you have like a concept, analysis, how it relates to me, and then what you can do to find your peace, what you can do to find your purpose, what you can do to find focus and create your focus. And I don't want to say find, to create your dream, because you're active in it. The whole essence of the book is, I'm concerned about the world. And I have a 9-year-old that I'm trying to raise in this world. And what concerns me is that we aren't teaching people to be active participants in their lives. We're telling them to do this, take this, check this, do this multiple choice. So of course, if we're not teaching them to think, but they know there's a bigger world out there, they're walking around activated in fear all the time because they don't know what the heck is going on. So if you don't challenge people to do this and then say, here's some steps to do it, and you absolutely should be actively engaged in your own life. I mean, would you let somebody else drive your car from the passenger side your entire life? You're playing, and not from the other stick on the other side, but like, I'm over here and do it like this. No, this is your life, man. And you should be accountable for it. And it goes back to that whole idea of entitlement and giving rewards for participation alone versus also teaching how to excel and to excel through failure. Because if you go in the gym, that's what you have to do. When you play piano, that's what you have to do. When you're in law school, that's what you have to do. You're not going to win everything. And so that was what the book was about, with the whole idea of the fact that I had a baby on the way. And making sure that, I don't know how long I'm going to be around here. But my daughter read my book to me one day on the golf course because she was like, you know what, Dad? You wrote this book to me, right? Because it says it right here.
Wow.
You dedicated this to me. So today I'm finished first tee. I want to spend some more time with you, but I'm just going to read to you and you can hit your shots. And we have these beautiful moments where
Wow.
my daughter knows that this was for her. And hopefully, if that helps other people, that it was written with that kind of love, the love of a dad to a daughter and the world, because we're all connected,
Yes.
take it and share it.
Marcus, that's incredible. And just hearing you talk about what led you to write it, what's in it in terms of content. But what I'm taking from what you said also is that this book and the principles and the things that are in it, I mean, whether you're a student in college, whether you're a high school freshman, I mean, they're pieces of what you said that can apply to anyone in terms of how to deal with the things that you mentioned and find their own way and
I have a lot,
and navigate.
and I have a lot of parents that buy two copies for them and for themselves and for their kid so that they can read it together. That's like a big thing at our concerts. People are like, "Yo, you have books?" Yes. Okay, I need two. It's also available on audiobook at Audible and available on Amazon. But they'll get to read it with their kid. And I have these now college students that are like, "Yo, my mom and I read your book together, 3 years ago." And what you said about dreaming, what you said about being stuck, that chapter is one that resonates for me because sometimes life gets so bad and so hard. It's like a storm in the summertime. We get bad storms here, right? Man, and sometimes it's not worth leaving your blinkers on and risking, death. Sometimes you just have
Yes.
to pull over to the side, keep your blinkers on so you don't get hit, keep
Yes.
your windshield wipers on or not, and just let the storm pass because it always passes. Then the other part, the one is for the love of crime, and then a grown man's perspective of the need to release and when you need to. And you know when you need to. And I just tell you, if you need to, it's just like a thunderstorm or a hurricane. It kind of moderates the temperature of the earth. Getting these emotions out of you allows you to do a reset. And if you need to cry, man, and you're
Let it out.
a guy,
Absolutely.
6'9", star football, basketball player, go do it. Find your place, get in your corner, you know what I'm saying?
That's it.
And let it go. You're better for it. So, yeah, man.
Love it. Love it. Look, I've got 3 whole minutes and I want more, but I'm gonna use these 3 minutes just real quick as we close things out today. Marcus, this has been an incredible conversation with you, as I knew it would be. Um, Real quick, just talk a bit about what's next for you, for Marcus, for Flow, beyond Flow, and then let people know that are listening, how they can connect with everything Marcus Johnson. That's next.
Um, what's next? We got to get on. It's one thing to get the deals and get the national deals at Total Wine in these other places that we're targeting. Then you got to get the product on the shelf, let people know about it, get it off the shelf, get to the distributor to get it back on the shelf to get to the wine producer. So it is really making sure that we close the loop on our success and that we end up being, I would love to be a top 100 winery, wine brand in the United States, and then figure out what bigger company can help us take it worldwide. We just got some inquiries about taking it international, and looking forward to do that. I'm working on a new CD trio. We just launched. I see my associate Stefanos Solomon, who's on here as well, who created our lo-fi station. So we're doing more lifestyle music where you go to Flow Lo-Fi Radio on Google, and it'll set you up for study work. Everything you need. We had a plan behind us, and in the tasting that we had last week, people were like, "What is this? This Flow Lo-Fi Radio." Doing everything with that little bit of edge. It's mature, but yo, it has an edge on it. You still, it's like it's ageless. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then doing more of our lifestyle events. You know, looking forward to that. Touring, jazz, the Sips and Sounds, the lifestyle, Love and Jazz weekends. Um, and honestly, man, you know, being as good a family man as I can be, and you know, making sure that I do all I can to help, you know, seed into my 9-year old. So those are, you know, the immediate next things, right? And then, you know, from there, it's like the best way to catch me is if you go to marcusjohnson360.com. It's the portal where you can get the wine, you can get to the candles, you can get to the book, you can get to our events where we're performing, and we ask that you share. Um, if you support any artist, share, give a review. That matters. If you like a wine, and it doesn't have to be ours, go online to, you know, whether it's Costco or Target or Total Wine and more. Go to that brand and write a positive review. You matter that much. And so, you know, but you can do that from our website, listen to our music, and share, man. So just continue more of the same, man, until we get to the point where you can be at a Flow resort, chilling in the Flow lounge, listening to some Flow music from Marcus, smelling on a Flow candle, maybe some Flow.
Hey, I'm making my reservation right now for that. Right now, right now. Well, look, Marcus, it's been an absolute pleasure. You know, I want to let folks know, you know, I've been taking some notes as Marcus has been talking. And, you know, just like he said, you know, practice going deeper, you know, dream, engage, think about your environment, plan, execute, and then reflect. You know, these are some principles that whatever you decide to do in life, you can apply these. So Marcus, thank you so much for your time today. MarcusJohnson360.com, go there. And I would like to tell folks, if you have some feedback about today's session with Marcus, I'd love to get that feedback via email. You can email Leslie, that's LESLIE .Perkins, PERKIN, as in Nancy, S, at Southside, SOUTHSIDE.edu. Drop me a line. I'd love to know what you thought about today. I'd love to know what you thought about Marcus's wonderful words of wisdom. Marcus, any last parting words for me before we cut you off, sir? I want to keep you longer.
Man, I mean, you know, I can stay a little bit if you have the time. It's no biggie, but you know, it is. I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you're doing. And for those of you all who are students, hopefully you got something out of this. And I'm going to leave you with a couple little words from a guy, Reed. The 5 things in this world that we can't change and that we have to deal with. Number 1, everything changes and ends. Number 2, things don't always go according to plan. Number 3, life is not fair. Number 4, pain is a part of life and growth. And number 5, people are not loving and loyal all the time. So understanding these things, that's what you're gonna see. And you've seen it. You're dealing with it right now. You dealt with it this morning. You may be thinking about something you got to get off here and go do. Just understand that those are the parts of life. And when you do, it makes it so much easier. It's a different light. It's a different lens through which you see life. And then go out here and get your flow on. I mean, you got it. Whatever you want to do, you know what you need to be doing. It's not over there. You're not going to find it back here. It's right here. Go for it. Make your mark on this world.
Perfect way to close us out today. Thank you, Marcus, so much for your time, sir. Great to see you.
Great seeing you too, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dave.
All right. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it.